The crowd stopped breathing. Even the referee froze. It wasn't violence, it was something else entirely, something that would echo through martial arts history for decades to come. But no one in that dojo knew what they were about to witness. Bangkok, 1971. The air was thick with humidity and anticipation. Bruce Lee stood in the center of the mat, his frame impossibly lean. 135 pounds of muscle and philosophy wrapped in a simple gi. His opponent was everything Bruce wasn't. A Muay Thai champion named Kem Sitsupa, 210 pounds of championship pedigree, scarred knuckles, 20 years in the ring. The locals had made their bets. "The small Chinese guy doesn't stand a chance," someone muttered in Thai. They'd seen this before. A famous martial artist rolls through town, local fighters size him up. Size always wins. That's how it worked. That's how it had always worked. But they didn't know Bruce Lee. They didn't know that he'd spent the last 6 years deconstructing martial arts itself, tearing apart tradition, questioning dogma, rebuilding everything from first principles. They didn't know about the thousands of kicks against the heavy bag, the hours studying film footage frame by frame, the philosophy that had consumed him. It is like a finger pointing to the moon. Do not focus on the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory. Kem Sitsupa cracked his neck. The Muay Thai champion had never heard of being like water. He knew one language: power, devastating power. The referee called them to the center. Kem moved forward first, a low, confident stride. This was his territory now, his rules. Bruce waited perfectly still, his weight balanced on the balls of his feet. His hands were relaxed, his expression was neutral, but his eyes, God, his eyes tracked everything. "You sure you want to do this?" Kem said in broken English, his grin wide and cruel. "I've broken ribs before. Sometimes they pierce the lung." Bruce didn't respond. He never responded to trash talk. Words were noise, distractions, the ego trying to climb into the opponent's head. He had already learned that lesson years ago when he was fighting in Hong Kong, when his Sifu told him, "The moment you need to prove something, you've already lost." The referee raised his hand. 3, 2, 1. "Stop!" The referee's hand dropped. Kem came in fast, not tentative, not testing, a full frontal assault, a low roundhouse kick designed to sweep the legs. It was textbook Muay Thai, brutal, effective. He'd ended matches this way before. Bruce saw it coming like it was in slow motion. His foot was already gone. He didn't block, he didn't retreat, he simply wasn't there anymore. A tiny lateral step, almost invisible, and Kem's leg cut through empty air where Bruce's body had been 1/10 of a second before. The champion's momentum carried him forward, off balance, exposed. The crowd felt it immediately. Something was wrong. This wasn't how it worked. Kem recovered fast, spinning to face Bruce again. No problem, he'd adjust. He'd faced quick opponents before. But as he turned, something in his peripheral vision registered. Bruce was smiling. Not arrogantly, not mockingly, just serene, like he was exactly where he needed to be, and Kem was exactly where Bruce wanted him. "Again," Kem growled. This time he was more cautious, testing, a jab, then a cross, standard boxing combinations. Kem was confident in his hands, too. He'd trained with boxers, learned their angles, stolen their speed. Bruce parried both shots with the minimum movement possible. His hand barely moved, just a subtle redirect. Kem's jab glided past his face by millimeters. His cross was similarly neutralized. But what struck Kem, what genuinely disturbed him, was that Bruce had time. He had all the time in the world. Every attack looked like it was happening at half speed compared to what the champion was used to. 2 minutes in, Kem was breathing harder now. His confidence was starting to crack like old paint. He'd thrown 12 combinations, connected with 0. Meanwhile, Bruce had landed 3 light kicks to the ribs, the thigh, the chest, just hard enough to prove he could, just hard enough to keep score. The referee watched carefully. In the crowd, an older Thai martial artist grabbed his friend's arm. "Do you see what's happening?" "What do you mean?" "He's losing." "No, the small one is fighting a different fight entirely." Kem decided to change strategy. He came in with everything, a spinning elbow, his most devastating technique. The move was poetry for a Muay Thai fighter. Rotational power, precision, timing. It was the kind of strike that could end careers. His entire body was behind it. His pride was behind it. His years of undefeated records were behind it. Bruce didn't sidestep this time. He stepped inside. It happened in what witnesses would later describe as less than 1 second. Bruce moved into Kem's rotating body, grabbed his arm, and the sound. Nobody who was there forgot the sound. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't quite a shout. It was the sound of someone experiencing a moment so shocking, so humiliating, so impossible that the human vocal cords didn't have a category for it. Kem hit the mat. Hard. He'd been thrown with such speed and control that he had no time to break his fall. His back slammed against the canvas. The air left his lungs in one explosive gasp. He lay there, stunned, staring up at the ceiling of the dojo. The room went silent. Not quiet, silent. The kind of silence that happens when reality shifts and nobody's brain has caught up yet. 100 people had just witnessed something that violated their understanding of how martial arts worked. Something that violated how physics worked. Bruce stood over him, breathing normally, not even exertion on his face. Kem struggled to his elbows. His pride was shattered more than his body. He'd been thrown, a grappling move, by a man who was supposed to be a striker, a man who was supposed to be outmatched by size and power, a man who was supposed to be just another touring fighter testing his reputation. He got to his feet, slowly. The referee looked at him with new respect. "Continue?" Kem nodded, but something had changed. The fight lasted 2 more minutes. 2 minutes of Bruce Lee systematically dismantling every tool in the Muay Thai champion's arsenal. Every kick was sidestepped or caught. Every punch was deflected, and every time Kem tried to engage, Bruce was somewhere else, moving like water, as he always said. Formless, adaptive, impossible to fight against because there was nothing solid to fight. By the end, Kem wasn't attacking anymore. He was defending, and barely defending at that. The referee called it. Bruce Lee had won. But more importantly, something else had won too. A philosophy, a way of thinking about combat that ignored tradition, ignored size, ignored everything except one principle: efficiency of motion. Kem sat down on the bench outside the dojo after it was over. His entire body ached, not from impacts Bruce had held back, never trying to destroy, just to demonstrate, but from the realization. Everything he'd believed about martial arts, everything his teachers had told him, everything his body had been conditioned to trust, had been invalidated in 6 minutes. One of the witnesses, a documentarian who happened to be visiting Bangkok, approached Bruce. "That was extraordinary. Can I interview you about what you did in there?" Bruce shook his head. "There's nothing to talk about. He was strong. Strong is useful. But strength is the last refuge of the incompetent. He believed size determined victory. I learned long ago that understanding determines victory." "But your technique, it was unlike anything I've ever seen." "There is no technique. There's only principles. Simplicity, directness, non-resistance. Most fighters are too busy thinking about their next move to see their opponent's actual movement. I simply stop thinking and respond." The documentarian wrote it down, but he knew the words wouldn't do it justice. What happened that day in Bangkok spread through the martial arts underground like wildfire. Rumors started immediately. Some said Bruce had used magic. Others said Kem had thrown the fight. A few claimed they'd seen Bruce move so fast that his body seemed to split into 3 positions at once. The truth was stranger than fiction. 135-pound man had systematically defeated 110-pound champion using nothing but understanding, timing, and principle. Only 11 people in that dojo truly witnessed it and saw clearly what happened. The rest had seen what their minds would allow them to see. Some saw a lucky win. Some saw proof that Muay Thai wasn't as effective as they'd believed. Some saw exactly what Bruce Lee had been trying to teach the world his entire career, that martial arts wasn't about power, it was about philosophy. It was about asking why, not just how. In the years that followed, Kem never fought again. Not because he was injured, not because he'd lost faith in Muay Thai, but because he'd understood something in those 6 minutes that changed him forever. He'd felt what real mastery looked like. He'd felt the difference between strength and skill. And he'd realized that if this small, lean man could do what he'd done, then everything Kem thought he knew was just the beginning. He became a teacher instead, and he would tell his students about that day, about the man who destroyed every preconception they had about fighting. He would tell them about efficiency over power, about principles over techniques, about the philosophy that power means nothing if you can't apply it. The legend grew with each retelling. Some versions had Bruce Lee fighting 5 opponents in succession. Some claimed he fought for only 3 seconds. Some said he didn't even throw the technique, that Kem simply fell from the pressure of Bruce's presence. But the kernel of truth remained. On that day in Bangkok in 1971, something shifted in martial arts forever. Bruce Lee would go on to revolutionize martial arts, cinema, and popular culture. But before all of that, before the movies, before the international fame, before he became an icon, there was this moment. This quiet, devastating moment where a principle defeated a tradition, where understanding defeated assumption, where a small man with a big idea showed the world that everything they'd believed about strength was incomplete. Size doesn't matter. Power is nothing without efficiency, and the most dangerous fighter in the room is the one who isn't trying to prove anything. He's just executing principles. That story never made it into textbooks. There was no official record, no videotape, just witnesses and whispers, and a legend that grew larger with each retelling. But for anyone who understands martial arts, it represents something fundamental. The moment when modern martial arts was born. Not as a collection of techniques, but as a philosophy. Bruce Lee didn't just fight better than his opponents, he thought better than them. He understood the game while they were still playing by the old rules, and that understanding became his greatest weapon. To this day, every martial artist who is trained in any modern combat system has been touched by Bruce Lee's philosophy, whether they know it or not, whether they ever heard his name or not, because he answered the fundamental question, what is martial arts really about? Not tradition, not size, not power, understanding. If this story fascinated you, if you want to understand more about how principles beat power, how philosophy defeats tradition, subscribe to the channel. We dive deep into the hidden stories of history's greatest warriors, the moments that changed everything, and the philosophies that still shape how we fight, compete, and win today. Hit that subscribe button and let's explore the next legendary moment together.